Hi everybody, welcome to a new tutorial from Sound for More. It's Leo speaking. Today I have the pleasure to start a new series of tutorials on how to use Ableton Live. In this example, version 11.1, which supports the Apple Silicon chip. We're going to go through an explanation of all the controls, but also we're going to go through into more details on how to build songs, recording, using devices, etc., etc. I hope you enjoy. If you have any comments, just let me know, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Let's do it. Okay, let's start. As I mentioned in the introduction, this is a new series of tutorials on Ableton Live, starting from the very beginning. So if you never used it before, hopefully this will help you to learn about Ableton Live. I'm using version 11.1, which supports Apple Silicon chip, which is quite nice. And indeed, I'm currently using a MacBook Air M1, which is really nice to see version 11.1 supporting the Apple's Silicon chip. So let's go through an introduction really to Ableton Live. I'm going to take it easy, particularly on the first video, but as I want to ensure that everybody can learn how to use this fantastic music production tool. So starting from the very top, we have your menu, and pay particular attention to where you have preferences, which I will mention in a moment, and also where you have your view menus, because that will dictate what you see, will toggle on and off what you see on the screen. So if your screen looks different, that perhaps is because you have a different view settings on or off. You might want also to start with a new live set so that we have a similar views than what I'm currently showing on the screen. Starting from the very top, you have controls like your tap tempo, your tempo, which you can also enter using keyboard. Also time signatures, the ability to turn on and off your metronome, quantization settings. Here is where you have your measurement, or I would say your arrangement position, so where you are in the arrangement on the timeline. Here you have transport controls like play, stop, and record, etc., etc. As I mentioned, I'm not going to go through all the controls in the first video. I don't want to scare anybody, particularly beginners. In the middle of the screen, you have on the left-hand side what is called the browser view or browser component. This is where you can browse through different categories and places. On categories, you have things like drums, instrument, audio and MIDI effects, plugins. So this is where you see your audio unit and VST free plugins, which you can actually launch your favorite plugins. So for example, D50 for Roland Cloud, double click on it, and there you are. You have your plugin loaded directly from the Roland Cloud subscription, which is really nice. Really recommend the subscription. And but you have also places in the browser view. So this is where you can, for example, go to user library, or you can even add a folder which is pointing to a place on your hard disk on your device, and therefore you will be able to browse through your system folder or other folders. And that becomes useful because you can drag and drop the four files onto this session here in the middle, which is the session view. And the reason that it is a session view is because it is organized in columns in terms of tracks. So you see 4 tracks here. The first 2, the first one called D50, the second one MIDI, then the third audio and fourth audio. Then we have additional tracks like the reverb, delay, and master, and or should I say stripped. And then here's where you switch between the session view, which is what we currently have on, but also the arrangement view up here, which is where you will see tracks set horizontally, like so, and it shows more of a timeline in terms of where you are with your playing. If I go back to the session view, this is where you see these little dots here. This is where you have your different clips, okay? And if you press Control, and if you hold Control and then click with the mouse, you can remove a track, select and delete. You have your context menu. But let's focus at the moment to MIDI and audio tracks only, like so. So you can have MIDI track and audio tracks. In here you have different clips. And clips are your unit of measure, which can contain effectively MIDI events, like in this case, because it's a MIDI track, or samples, or your audio files under your audio track. You find other controls which might sound familiar if you come from other DAW, like for example, activators for track, solo and cue, arm for recording as well, send effects, etc., etc. Down here is an interesting view. It's called the info view or info component. This is where it shows you, it's practically help in terms of control. As you move around with your mouse, if you hover something, you will see down here, it will show you an explanation for that control. So just to give you an example, if I don't remember what this button here is the back to the arrangement view, which will stop the playing from the session view, will re-enable the playing on the arrangement view, particularly when the two are have different playing settings related to clips, as I will explain in one of the future tutorials. I mentioned earlier on that is useful for you to navigate on the preferences under the live menu, select the preferences, and this is where you have a lot of interesting things. So I recommend you spend some time. So for example, when you run it the first time under plugins, you might not have a use VST free plugin system folder on. In that case, you will not see under plugins here your VST free folder, okay? And that become, of course, handy if you're using plugins. So like in this case, I was building some plugins using the VST free format. So it's useful for you to actually get accustomed to some of the preferences here. And this is where also you can rescan, for example, recent plugins, clicking on rescan. But this is also where you can change the behavior, for example, for the look and feel, or the way that warp actually is handled when you're importing files, etc., etc. Now, let's play some samples. Let's insert some samples as well inside the session view. I'm going to get rid of that MIDI track. So this is a list of samples which is quite long. So it comes with a lot of samples pre-installed. Even though this is the light version, it's really good. So if you click on one of the sample, it will preview it for you, and you can stop pressing, for example, the space bar on the keyboard. And you see a representation of the waveform down here as well. Okay. Let's say that I want to take that sample and put it on the audio track. Well, I can drag and drop, or I can double click, and you'll see it will appear there. So in that case, I have actually loaded that sample on the first clip. Now, if I was to drag and drop like so, I can put the first sample under the second clip. And this is where you will, I would say, encounter one of the first concepts. You can play only one clip per track. So if you want to play multiple clips, you need to organize them into different tracks. So let me give you an example. So quite different, as you can see. Now, we will explore more differences, of course, as we go through the different tutorials, particularly when it comes to use the session view versus the arrangement view. And just to give you a brief example, if I was to click that sample and bring it in the arrangement view. Now, if I was to press play here, what you will hear is that it's still playing the clip inside the session view. So if I go to the session view, you find that it was playing that clip there. And you find also this button here, which is highlighted, back to arrangement. So if I click on that, it will stop the playing here, and it will enable the play on the arrangement view. Now, it just happened that this sample is 150 bit per minute, so I can click on here and type 150 and then press enter. And now we'll have the right tempo or time signature. Sorry, tempo. So this is just a small text of how to switch between session view and arrangement views. And I just wanted to show you these straight away, because you might just go into Ableton Live in the session view and you might be wondering, where is my view where I organize horizontally all my different clips or sample, etc., etc. Well, this is where it is under your arrangement view. Of course, the session view becomes particularly important if you have devices like, I don't know, a launchpad, and then you will be able to actually play what are called scene as well, where you have multiple tracks and you will be able to press a play corresponding to a scene alongside all the tracks which are active. But I will explain that into more details in one of the next video. Okay, I'm going to stop here. As I mentioned, this is just a bit of a taster. So we are going now to take it easy and going into the explanation of every control in Ableton Live. And then I'm going to show you also how to record, build your songs, applying effects, etc., etc. I hope you will enjoy, and as always, see you at the next tutorial. Thank you.